baby. 3, 2, 1.
Right, hello guys, Tunia back again. Right, we're going to do a review of this Sharp X68000Z Mini. They don't actually call it a Mini, they don't actually call it Sharp. I notice there's no Sharp branding on anything on this, which is a little bit odd. But anyway, that's what it is. It's a mini version of the home computer that came out in Japan. If you have a look at my channel, I did an unboxing video of it, so you can check out all the bits and bobs. It comes with the tower itself, the replica of the original machine. It comes with a full replica of the original keyboard, which is really nice quality heavy keyboard, and comes with a mouse as well, which is very nice. I did some live streams of it. I thought I want to give this a good go before I give a review. So I've done some live streams. So I've probably clocked up something like, I don't know, maybe about 17 hours use of it. So I've given it a good go and got into all little issues and stuff, and worked out things that were a problem. So I'm going to start by saying that this is not a mini console like you think of the minis. So the minis are basically plug and play devices, aren't they? You put them on, they've got a certain amount of games on them. You plug a joypad in, off you go, you're done. You're playing Mario, or you're playing bloody PC Engine, or whatever. This ain't that at all. This is not like other mini consoles. This is meant to be like unboxing a Sharp computer back in the day and plugging it in and then figuring out, going, what the hell am I doing? And then having to read through the manual and get things up and running and learn about it. It's basically what you see on screen now is when you turn this machine on is all you get. So basically what that is saying insert a disk. This thing has got two. Basically, it works like the original computer. The original computer had two 5 1/4 inch disc slots in it, and it uses the two discs. So this, you need two SD cards because it uses the both disc slots, just like the original machine does. But you use SD cards. It does come with 3 SD cards. One of them is Gradius, the other is an upgraded version of Chorensha, and the other is the original system disk. So what I'll do is I'll take my SD cards out and I'll put the original system disk in, and I'll show you what happens. What it does, it loads up the GUI interface, which is Human 68K, which is made by Hudson Soft. Well, they had something to do with development of this machine anyway, I believe. So I'm put a disk in. This is like you would do on the original. You would put the system disk in to get the original up and running. So they have set this up like being a mini version of the original machine and being a new version of the original machine. So basically, once it loads the original system up, you get this. You get the GUI interface where you can basically go around, mess around with the things. I've no idea what I'm doing. Basically, this is where I would need to read the booklet. The only other problem with this, as it's Japanese only, and I don't think they're going to do any sort of international release. It's all in Japanese. So you're going to have to use Google Translate on your phone. You're going to have to translate stuff on the web page. But you can download the manuals to PDF. But you've got to log into their website and sign up to it, which you're going to need your phone to do, basically translate some stuff. And you can download the things in PDF. And if you've got the full version of Adobe Acrobat or something, you can translate them. So that would be handy to do, actually. So what are you looking at now is the contents of the SD card, which has the contents of the humans. Is basically, this is the operating system. There are things you could do. Like I said, I don't really know what I'm doing. You can type things on it. That's a new directory, right? Okay. Like I said, I'm still learning this myself at the moment. So you got new directory. I think that is a note you can do. I know you can hold down. At least I thought you could hold down here. See, lock size sorting wildcard. So you can open that. I'll print up the new directory. Like I said, I don't really know what I'm doing on this either. If you right click on that one, you've got keyboards, no telephone directory, calendars, control panel. So if I do control panel, you are like. So basically, this essentially works like the original PC. So you got your screen resolution. You can swap between different resolution types, which is quite handy. So that's basically, it runs, the original machine ran 15 kilohertz to 31 kilohertz, so it's low resolution, high resolution. So we'll go back to the high resolution. You can change paper color. You can probably, let's have a look what that does. Alright, so that's change background colors and things like that. That one does. Alright, you can invert. That's quite cool. They give you option to do things like that. And you can do paper color. So we'll put that back to something that was more sort of there. You can do notes, system drives are on there. So that's your control panel. They are hoping that people are going to write new programs for this and use this as an original PC. So if we go to calendar, there's your calendar. What else have we got here? Go okay. So you could use this like a computer back in the day, which is very cool. There's the on-screen keyboard. It does have an on-screen keyboard, by the way, by using the mouse. The right click on the mouse. So we'll get rid of that. Yeah, so that's basically, you get the idea, but you're going to have to learn like original PC back in the 80s or whatever when this came out. So, after you've figured out how to do that and get to this, you're going to figure out, how the hell do I load any games on this? How the hell do I get this working? So, first thing you need to do on this, on the top of the machine, there's interrupt button and there's a reset button. What you need to do is hold that interrupt button down and then press reset. And then you keep holding this interrupt button down. And eventually you get to this. Once you've worked this out, the first thing you're going to need to do is get to this. Once you're in this allows you to basically go into the boot menu and you can boot directly to each of the SD cards. Or you can boot to the emulator, which is the front screen you see initially when you turn this on. Or you can go to the launcher. So we're going to boot it to the launcher. The launcher takes a little bit longer to come up, but it's more like what a mini console would be. There are emulator settings, which I have no idea what any of that means. You can load fonts like you would do on the original one. You can factory reset it, and if you go to manual boot, if you want to update the firmware on this is a tip. If you want to update firmware, you've got to sign up to their website. There's a card that comes with a machine. You register your device and it allows you to download the firmware. What you do is you put the firmware on the root of the second SD card, it's just free files essentially. You boot into this and then there's an option on there that will say firmware because it'll read the second SD card and the firmware will come up. And then you just use the mouse, click on the firmware and it'll go off and do the update. It takes about a minute basically, pretty simple. Anyway. So we're gonna boot into the launcher, which is default now. So when I restart this now, you do have to do a lot of restarting on this. There's no, as far as I know, there's no shortcuts in going back to the menus. It is like the original PC. You got to restart it. So now it should launch into the launcher, which is more of a new interface with some pretty funky music, which comes from a Tetris homebrew Tetris game, which is on this machine, as we found out. It's the same tune. So, essentially, I think this probably should have been the default, but I know what they were going for. They were going for the original machine look. So this is the GUI that comes up. This is really nice little music. This is your slots for your SD cards. If you click on Emulator, it goes back to that first initial screen, and that just takes you to a web page. You don't do a web page on you; it gives you a QR code for your phone. And then in settings, there's a few settings you don't need to change. The top one basically turns on the internal speaker on the machine, which has got an internal speaker, and the other ones are just like nothing you need to know basically. So I'm going to use the mouse to go back. Cool thing about the mouse, guys, as well, it's a laser mouse this time instead of the original ball mouse. But on the original mouse, there was a cap on the top you could take off and you could use the ball in the mouse as a trackball. You can do it on this one. You basically put your fingers between the plastic of the ball, the dome thing on the top of the thing. You pull it off and you click a button underneath and you can use it as a rollerball for games, which is quite cool. So, I'm going to take this system disk out, which I put in, and I'm going to put in. It literally, this just comes with 2 games on SD card. There's no other games it comes with. But it's an upgraded version of Chorensha and Gradius. So I'm going to put in Chorensha, and as you'll see, it'll pop up on the So you double click on it, and there's Chorensha. So you double click and you get this. So you get save slots, but only for the games that come on SD card, for the ones that comes with it. You just press the interrupt button and a menu comes up and you can do save slots. There's no video options, there's no scanline options. The only video options is the one in the GUI. There's no scanline options, there's no sound options, there's nothing like that. It's completely just like the original computer, so totally bare bones. So I'll start the game up. You can also use the keyboard or the or a joypad for this. Joypads. I've tested loads of joypads on you. Nothing X input works. So basically, all this machine recognizes is D input. Cool. So basically, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, some of your 8-bit DOE pads, when you can turn them to D input, you usually have like button combinations or a switch on them to put them to D input. All those, they all work. Some of you like say, I know, the old PC USB Saturn pads, various things like that all work on you. The Astro City mini sticks and pads work on you. The Brook Ultimate Fighting controller works on you because you can change it. You've got to hold down weak kick to do it though. The Ultimate Fighting board does cause a weird problem. If you don't hold down weak kick when you plug it in, it cuts the frame rate down to half rate on you, which is really bizarre. But all you got to do is just hold down weak kick and plug it in, and it's fine. So basically, all your Xbox pads or anything that's X input doesn't work on you. It's got to be D input. But there's loads of pads D input you can use, and there's no button setup either, so you can't change anything. You just got to go with the buttons they give you, basically. So what I'm using is an Astro City mini pad. So I'll show you this. So this is the upgraded version of Chorensha, which is going to get a PC release at some point, but it's exclusive to this at the moment. Basically, it's the same game. I think it's got slightly different explosion noises, but it's got new backgrounds, and it's very nice. And it does have like a secret bit at the end showing you like possibly a new game the guy who made this might be making. But yeah, it's Chorensha, which was a homebrew game back in the day, but it's a fantastic shoot 'em up. And if you get in between those power-ups, and you can collect all 3 of them at the same time if you tap back slowly. So with this, because this is the original SD card that came with it, if I press the interrupt on the top of the machine, you get the menu saying save and load and reset and exit back. So I'm going to go exit back, and now I'll exit back. They are planning to release games on SD card, and they are planning to release new games on SD card. So it may get a little bit expensive if you're going to be buying the games and stuff. I noticed this kept the time as well, which is quite nice. So that's Chorensha. That's playing one of the original discs that come with it. See, if you're going to get one of these, watching this video will help you out at first, because you're just going to be really confused otherwise. So that's Chorensha, which is great. So I'm trying to think what else I need to say about it. The keyboard it comes with is great. It's basically a full replica of the original keyboard. It's got cherry. I don't think there might not be cherry switches, but they're red mechanical switches in it, so it's a nice mechanical feeling keyboard. The mouse is decent. The machine is nice quality and all that. So it's very nice. So the only thing I say about this, it's not, like I'm saying, it's not like the other mini consoles. If you want to play games in this, you're going to have to go looking how the hell to do this. So you've got to set games up like the original Sharp X680 Mini. So you need two SD cards. They need to be formatted to FAT32, and you need to have a folder on there in capitals X68000Z, and then you put all your disk images in that folder. But because you've got two SD cards, so you've got double disk games, you put disk 1 on SD card 1 and disk 2 on SD card 2. The multi-disc games, you're going to have to copy both sets of discs to both SD cards, because some games will load on disk 1 and then load all the other discs on disk 2, and then other games will want to swap alternately between the two disk drives. Like I said, they need to be FAT32. So the other caveat at this moment in time, it only accepts XDF format discs. So you will need to go online to find a disk converter, which is quite easy to find, to be honest. And most of the discs out there are either DIM format or D88 format. So you're going to have to convert anything you want to run on here to XDF format, which is literally just drag and drop. You just drag it into the converter, you tell it where it's going to put it, and it converts them all. And then you can put them on. The other thing is, at the moment, the folder on the SD card can only hold 100 disk images maximum, plus the SD card has to be 32 gig or less, and it has to be one of those SC what are they called, I can't see it. It has to be one of those newer SC format ones, so the faster ones. SC something, I can't think what it is offhand at the moment. Yeah, so 32 gig. If you've got bigger SD, and they have to be the full-size SD cards, by the way. If you've got any sort of SD cards that are bigger than that, you can partition them and use them, apparently. I haven't tried that personally myself, but you can do that. So once you've done that and you've got your game images on the discs, you can go back to the original interface and load your discs, which I'll do now. The other thing, they are planned, because they did the original units for people who applied to have the machine to play around with, and this is because I've chucked the disk drives in now. Look, see, it's basically come up showing the games I've put on in that folder on the SD cards. If I click the button on the front, which turns the disk drives off, you go back to the original menu. Yeah. So because they did the initial units where you had to apply to order one to test it. These are the backers units. So these units at the moment are only for people who backed it. I think it was Kickstarter. They went on Kickstarter, backed it, and they've shipped them to them. So this in Time Machine at the moment is essentially in a beta phase. So they're adding features and they're getting people to test it, to use it. Features I've heard of planning that are coming. They've given hard drive support, so on the X68000 you can get, I think they're 10 megabyte hard drive images, and you can load those hard drive images up with loads of games, and then you get the nice little GUI and you can pick your games you want, and you don't have to bother with the disk swapping and everything, and the games load faster. So that's coming apparently. This machine originally supported MIDI, so there was a MIDI module you could plug onto it, and then not all games, some games you had to hold down a certain button when boot in, and you get extra better music soundtracks. They are going to add the MIDI support to it, so it's going to be added to the firmware essentially, which is really nice as well. So that's coming at some point as well. And they've started releasing software. I think it may be out now. There's a shoot 'em up like construction kit. I think they've released that for this now as well. I'll have to have a look on the website. So at the moment they're planning all extra bits and upgrades. Not all games work. There are a few games that come across, like some of the Sega Scalers graphics are a bit messed up, and there's a few other games that don't work, but most of the stuff I tried worked. But there are some things. You can have a look at my live streams. I did 2 live streams for about 5 hours each testing stuff. So there's that. So most games work, but I think they do need to do a few little upgrades, and fix some emulation issues or whatever. I did have a few problems initially where I couldn't get the machine wasn't always resetting. and I couldn't work out why. And sometimes I was resetting, but there was no sound. I figured out what that problem was. That was my fault. Basically, I had this plugged into a USB hub, a powered hub, which was a high-powered hub, so it can power various devices. And because I was powering the capture card, my hard drive, and various other things off it, and trying to power this, I don't think I was given enough power. So I've put this on its own power unit now. So basically, I got a phone charger which does 2.4 amps, and I've plugged it into that, and it's perfect. All those problems I had disappeared basically. The sound problem was because I had it going through a couple of switches, which may have been to do with the power issue as well. So I plugged it directly into the capture card now, and it's fine as well. So that was my own fault. So but it's a learning curve at the end of the day to see if you had any problems. But so now I've done that, job done. In the booklet, it does recommend a 3 amp power supply to run this, but I'm running it off a 2.4 last night for 5 hours and I had no problems whatsoever. So they're cheap enough to pick up on Amazon or something if you wanted to anyway, if you need to get one. But it's got to be USB-C. So it comes with a lead USB-C both sides. So if you get a charger, get a USB-C one, or you're going to have to buy another cable with standard USB and USB-C on the other side. So on the front of the machine, you put the discs in, and there's a button to disk access. So if I do disk access, turn them on. Use your disk interface. This is the stuff that I've converted and loaded onto in the XDF format. So you've got disk 1 and disk 2. So if we go to right. I couldn't get this to load the other night, but I was using it with the lower power supply, so let's just try it. So I know this does work because I've seen somebody else playing it on it, so it does work. The other thing I would say is maybe the few little issues I had with some games not working are because I converted the discs. Maybe they didn't convert correctly. So I don't know. I don't know whether that is a thing or not. It could well be. So the other thing with this as well is it does load like an original shop. So you are going to have to wait for loading. The loading's not too bad to be honest, but you are going to have to wait for it. But at least you get to listen to some nice Castlevania music. So if you look on the net for these disc images, there's lots of different formats. So what I should do is find the ones that I couldn't get working, which weren't that many, is go back and reconvert them from a different disc format. Because who knows, the original disc format I found may not be working anyway. Compared to the Mr. Core, the Mr. Core's not finished anyway. But there's games on you that don't work on the Mr. Core at the moment that work perfect on you. So at the moment, this is more compatible than the Mr. Core. But the Mr. Core is in alpha, essentially. It's great when it does work, but there are stuff that doesn't work on it. Right, so we're still disk loading at the moment. Go on, Nami. See you. I didn't get this far this time, so there's a power issue then, I guess. Now I fixed that power issue. We're working. So this is the remake of the original NES Castlevania game, essentially. In here, if you've got an MT32 MIDI setup for your Mister, you can change the music on this to the MIDI music, and the MIDI music is amazing. This is the message I came up with. I don't even know what this message is. This is where it gets interesting and where you need to use Google Translate on your phone. So I'm going to get Google Translate up and I'm going to have a look what this message actually says. Not create new colors. Refer to Anno, wherever the hell that means. Yeah, so that must be some setting or something I might have changed. There is a lot of emulator settings. I'm not quite sure what they do. So that's a setting that needs to be changed. So literally, it doesn't work. Shame. I know this does work because I've seen a replay of it on this machine. So there must be something I need to change. So I'm going to restart it and I'll go to something that does work. So basically press reset. The only problem is now because I've put it back to the main menu where you can load your SD cards and stuff. It takes a little bit longer to boot up now. Ideally, you want to change if you're just playing games off your SD cards. You want to change it to boot into the machine where it just asks you for the disk. It's a lot quicker, basically. So next time we'll change it back. It'll boot directly into the emulator then. This bit here, and it'll save this entire step of doing it, and it is a lot quicker. So let's have a go at something that we tried last night. What did I play on here? I know Cybercore works. That's a single disc as well. So, because you're not using a second disc, you've got to press the button on the machine to turn the second disc access off. And then this will load up. See, some games are on one disc, some games are on two. There was a lot of really good arcade conversions on this as well. I think that's why this machine got so famous, and the fact that Capcom used it back in the day to develop a lot of the CPS games as well. Even though the CPS conversions on here are not quite as good as the CPS games, because the CPS had, I think it had more RAM, it had slightly better sound chip as well, with some more channels and stuff. But they're generally pretty decent. So, like I was saying, if you're going to buy this as a mini console, you're not really going to be that happy because it doesn't work like a mini console, as you can see. This is why this review with this machine is going to be even longer, because I want to show you how it works and what you've got to do to get it to work, so you've got an idea. I'm not going to cut anything out. This game's also on the PC Engine. So here we go. So basically, you're up and playing the games. Like I say, there's no video options, and you can't use the interrupt for save states or anything like that when playing from the actual computer. Quite a weird game this is. Gameplay wise, it plays perfectly fine. Input lag wise, I haven't got anything to test it. There is a bit of input lag compared to like the Mister one, but to be honest, it's quite minimal, and it's not like it's really laggy. It is a tad. It's going to be, it's an emulator essentially. If I had a guess, you know, or a full-on guesstimate, because that's pretty much what it's going to be, on how many frames of input lag it's got, I'd say maybe 3. But that's a complete and utter guesstimate. And not technical whatsoever. But it feels fine to play. I'm glad they did that, mind, because like the last 2 minis they did were unfortunately quite laggy, like the Astro V and the Egret Mini. Unfortunately, when you play the better looking games, it was quite laggy. It's pretty much a bit sort of ruining it, really. But this is not like that at all. So it does play quite nice. Yeah, so basically this is Cybercore. So at this point now, if you wanted to change a game, if you press interrupt, it doesn't do anything basically. So I am going to hold interrupt and press restart. And I'm going to let go. I'm going to keep holding the interrupt down. And I'm going to go back to here. And to make things a little bit quicker, I'm going to I'm going to boot it to the emulator, which will speed things up a little bit. The other thing I would say about using this as well, because you've got a full-size keyboard and you've got a mouse, you've got a machine, and it's got a plug to a tel, you're going to need a desk to use this, really. You're going to need... it's basically almost like they've set it up so you have to use it like the original computer. Say this is the entire idea of it. I think is it's meant to be a computer, so you're gonna need almost like a computer desk to use it because this keyboard's massive. Like if I measure the keyboard, because I'm using a mini keyboard on my PC at the moment, the keyboard is 46 centimeters long. So that's literally just over 18 inches. So it is a proper full-size keyboard. Then you need space for your mouse and whatever. So loaded up multi-disc games. We'll do that now as well. So if we do, let's have a look. Let's find something that works quite nice. So you do Dai Makamura, which is Ghouls and Ghosts. So that's your first disc goes into disk drive 1, and then you need to find your second disc on disk drive 2, and then you need to load that up. And then what it'll do is it'll just swap in between the two discs. But multi-disc games, sometimes it'll read all the other discs on the second drive, but sometimes it'll want you to use drive 1 and 2 for doing like disk 1, disk 2, and then disk 3 and disk 4. So the multi-disc, you are going to have to copy them both to both SD cards. Like I said, the loading's not too bad in here. Some games take longer than others. But once you work out going to putting straight into the emulator just when you want to play games on it, it's not too bad. This is a nice way to play the sharp. I gotta admit, I know you can do this on PC essentially, but it's a nice way to play the sharp, and it's a bit more because they set it up like a computer. It's a bit more authentic, if you know what I mean. It's more like you are playing on a mini version of the sharp, and that's what they check in this. This is why it hasn't got mini written on the bloody box, and it also doesn't have sharp written on the box, which is odd. But yeah, it's not really a mini. It's meant to be It's meant to be a computer. The hardware inside it uses a quad-core processor. I think it's got 512 gig of storage. I think it's got I know, gig of RAM or whatever, something like that. If you have a look at their website, they're totally open what's inside. It's a system on a chip, basically. Um, so yeah, so when the extra feature, especially the hard drive loading comes on, it's just going to get even better at that point then. It's going to be a lot easier. I don't know. Loading that hard drive onto this machine is going to be, maybe that's going to be a pain in the ass. I don't know. So we'll play this. I was playing this last night. This is a really nice version of this as well. It's probably the best home conversion next to the Super Graphics one. It does have a little bit of shimmering though. This only this does for some reason. I don't mind. It's just loading from the second disc now. The MIDI version of the music for this is really good. It's like a Jamaican sort of version. It's quite funny. Seems you got a really nice conversion of this. This is pretty much arcade difficulty as well. Bam, 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 bam. Oh, oh, ruined now, anew. Lucky we're not trying to play through it. So you get the idea, that's Ghouls and Ghosts. And then same thing again, if you want to change game, you go back. This time it'll boot up a lot quicker, mine, because we've gone back to boot into the original machine. You get used to it. It's not too bad, you know what I mean? Swapping in between games, and if you're planning on just sitting down and gaming on it, it's great. Right. So overall, what I would say about this is, like I said, make sure you get a decent power brick on it, and if you're getting any problem going through multiple switches, just plug it directly into the TV. It does, like I said, the learning curve is a little bit steep at the start, and it isn't really a mini console. It's not set up for plug and play at all. It is set up to be the original machine. Um, It's really cool. It looks really nice. It's even got the little bit on the top, the little handle that popped up on the original is on here, and it looks like a proper mini version of the Sharp X68000. To be honest, it's really cool looking. The keyboard is wicked. The keyboard can also be used on the PC as well. There's a switch on it to turn to PC, so you could use this as your daily PC driver, which is quite cool. I haven't tried the mouse, but the mouse will probably work as well. It's controllers. Like I said, it doesn't come with a controller or anything. You're gonna have to find one. And it has to be D input, not X input. But just look around for a D input controller basically, and you should be sorted. Anything D input should work. Um, it's a nice package put together. Uh, but they have put it together to be the original machine. It is intended to be used like an original Sharp X68000. It's not intended to be used as a mini console. I probably, like I said, done about 16, 17 hours on it. I really like it. It's really good. It is a really nice way of playing sharp games. Input lag is not bad really. It's like a few frames or whatever, which you expect with an emulator. And it's a pretty good way of playing sharp games at the moment, especially with the more authentic feel of loading two SD cards, like two floppy disks, and using the keyboard, and you got the loading. So it's definitely more authentic feeling. I've enjoyed my time with it, to be honest. And I then again, I'm kind of the person I quite like messing with things, and I quite like sort of working out things work. So for me, it was quite interesting to do. But if you're the type of person that just wants it to work, don't bother with it. The other thing at the moment, because this is essentially just the backers unit, and they're not officially released yet, they're a bit expensive because you've got to buy it scalpers prices essentially off somebody who backed it, got it, and then is selling it on, which is a bit of a shit for the people who wanted to back it. But so you've got to buy it off somebody like that. So you're talking, you could be. I've seen one on eBay for 1,300 quid, which is crazy. Basically, it ain't worth that. They're just trying it on. But I think generally you could probably get one off eBay at the moment for about 600 quid if you're lucky, which is still a lot of money for what it is at the moment. But you're paying for a machine that's not out yet. It's not officially released yet. So I think I'm not entirely sure, but I think they're planning to release this later on in the year. At that point, you should be able to get one quite easy. You should be going off maybe Amazon will sell them or something like that, and you should be able to get one quite easy then. So at the moment, if you're going to pay a lot of money for it, unless you really, really want one to play around with, at the moment, you probably are better off waiting until the cheaper units come along. I say this is not my unit, unfortunately. I would like it, and I would use this quite a bit, to be honest. I really like it, but it's not mine. I probably end up picking one up when they do get officially released, but they are going to be a different color. I think they'd be the black units, and this is like a grey unit, which they did come in slightly different colors originally. Um, so overall, I really like it. It's a really nice machine, and I think if you like the Sharp and you want more of the authentic sort of feeling of playing Sharp games, I think you're going to really like it. But you probably are better off waiting till the end of the year. The Mr. Core essentially does the same thing. You can set the Mr. Core up to do the same thing as this, but one you got to have a Mr., which is not cheap in itself either. And two is the Mr. Core is essentially an alpha state at the moment and doesn't work with everything, so it's not fully compatible either. But this generally, most stuff works. Let's just pick something random. Thunder Force doesn't work, unfortunately. It works, but your sprite is under the sprite layer, which is a little bit odd. Let's have a go. Star Wars. Star Wars. That is a new version of Star Wars Arcade, like a completely different version. It was made by Homebrew. It's really good. So let's try Solfease, for instance. So if I go over to the second one, we'll load in Solfease. This does have MIDI as well, but there's a special button on the keyboard with two characters on it, kanji characters. You need to turn that on when you boot into these games. Yeah, so overall, I really like it. It's a really nice mini. It's if you fancy the Sharp or you're really into it, I think it's definitely worth picking up. If you're just curious about the Sharp and what it can do, there's a lot of stuff in this machine. It's really good. It's worth picking up. But if you don't want to spend 600 quid or more buying a one from a Japanese seller at this moment in time, you're probably better off waiting to the end of the year. So overall, yeah, it's a really cool machine. Like if I press start, we'll have a quick look at this as well. I don't know how to start this though. There are a few games I couldn't work out how to start them. I can't start this either. Some of them just automatically go through. There's probably a button keyboard. There's probably a button on the keyboard somewhere. Cool intro though. That's like the Mega CD intro. Yeah, so if you're interested in one, you probably wait till the end of the year to pick one up, unless you've got, you know, a bit of extra money to burn. But yeah, overall, I'm impressed with it. It's good. I'm not really going to call it a mini console because it's not. It's a mini version of the PC. So hopefully they'll be able to improve the emulation. They'll add new features to it. You're going to get MIDI. You're going to get hard drive launching. They're planning on making new software for it on an SD card. That'll be cool. It depends on how much they sell it for, of course. And they're trying to get people to code on it. So you never know. In the future, when this officially gets released now, towards the end of the year, we might end up with a lot of really cool stuff in there, and the homebrew scene might kick back up. You never know. Like, just time will tell, I suppose, on that. But apart from that, there's hundreds of games you can load in it. It's a free disc game. Hang on then. So it's asking for a third disc. Did I put the third disc on here? Let me see if I got it. Solfees. Okay. We'll have a quick look at this before we go. Seems to be loading it up. So I had to do the disc swap then. So it is reading the disc. Yeah, so it's a really good machine. I really like it. I've liked my time with it over the weekend. I would definitely like one. Definitely recommend it, I would say. But be warned for the things I've said, you know. This is a really nice version on here as well. It's like the Mega CD version, basically. It was originally a Sharp game though, but it is a bit nicer looking than the Mega CD one. Apparently, as far as I'm aware, the music on the Mega CD game is the MIDI music off this. It's quite nice shoot 'em up, this is. It's a lot more colourful than the Mega CD version as well. I always liked on this where you had the things flying through space and you could shoot them to make them go backwards. Quite a cool little touch out. You can have a lot of fun with this machine, I've got to admit. There's a lot of games to discover on here. A lot of stuff I've never played as well. There's a lot of homebrew games as well. That, you know, as with homebrew, some of them are a bit crap, but they are a lot of really good homebrew games. So I'm gonna die. Wow. So guys, anyway, that's the Sharp X68000 mini slash not really a mini. Really good, well worth picking up. Hope you liked the review of it, and hopefully some other people will get a hold of it and do some lag testing and stuff just to see exactly what it is. But you know, it does feel pretty responsive. It just feels like an emulator. When I press fire, it fires instant. So I think they've definitely learned with this, and they've made the effort to make it as best as possible. So guys, hope you enjoyed that. I know it was a bit long, but there was a lot of time, there was a lot of stuff to explain, and hopefully if you do get one yourself or you are picking one up, hopefully this video might help you out. Anyway guys, thanks for that. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you soon. Bye now.